Well, today we made our way to a boutique distillery.
Yeah, all the way to Old Glory in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Yeah, so tell us your thoughts on like what you thought whenever you got there, the building, the experience that you had, because you did take the tour. We had a private tour today with a very nice young lady named Shy.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I'd personally never been there. You've been there once before.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
I think, honestly, my favorite part about it was they actually had a rick house. A lot of places that we go around here, especially in Nashville, you don't get to see that side of it. And it was just really informational and getting to see like how, they had that 10-year bourbon they're going to release in 2027 and just kind of getting to be there for that.
So if Matt's listening to this, the owner of Old Glory, we want to be on the short list to get a bottle.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be expensive, but we want a bottle from that from your 10-year, from the very first barrel that you barreled.
Well, I'm honestly a little surprised they only have one barrel, too, of the 10-year. Like, I wonder what that price point's going to be once it hits the market.
Yeah, I don't know. They got a following, so it's going to be pretty pricey, but no, I'm excited. They do so much more than just bourbon and Tennessee whiskey. They had a vodka and a gin and some moonshine. I believe they do a rum as well. Did she mention that? We didn't try any.
There was a rum, we just didn't. It just wasn't in our flight.
Gotcha. So what was your favorite of the... So after we did the tour, there was a tasting, and so what was your favorite of the tasting that we did?
I'd say the bottle and bond.
Yeah.
I think you're honestly on the same point too. I mean, she said she wasn't originally a bourbon and whiskey drinker, but she said that was her favorite, and there was a little bit of the hair of the dog on there, but it still went down nice and smooth.
Yeah. So they had a small batch Tennessee whiskey, a small batch bourbon, and a bottle and bond Tennessee whiskey, and a bottle and bond bourbon.
Which actually I thought was really cool that they had one of each and that they were focusing on each of those separately instead of just having like one bottled and bond bourbon or one bottled and bond whiskey. They had both to offer.
So explain the difference between the two, because they look the same. The labels are almost identical except one says bourbon, one says Tennessee whiskey. So what's the difference between the Tennessee whiskey and the actual bourbon?
She said the difference was obviously, the corn and everything they add into it. But honestly, what I learned today was I didn't realize to qualify as a Tennessee whiskey that it has to be ran through that sugar maple charcoal filter.
Yeah, I did not know that either.
I didn't know that's what qualified it. Obviously, being made in Tennessee, but that filtration, because Jack Daniels does the same thing, for if you've ever done the tour, they have the huge vats. Or the way they make Gentleman Jack, they actually do that filtration process twice. But I just didn't know that's what qualified it. Like that was a qualifier. So.
Right, for sure.
What was your favorite thing at Old Glory?
My favorite thing to taste was the bottle and bond. That was the bourbon bottle and bond. But that's traditionally, bottle and bond being 100 proof, which is more mellow than a lot of other bourbons. So I tend to go towards that 100 proof anyway. But that was probably the most delicious. And then we had of the tour and everything. It was really cool seeing the cradle to grave. We got to see the start of it where they do the mash, then how it's all distilled, and then how they put in the barrels. We got to see the rick house, like you said, and then do the tastings afterwards. So I think cradle to grave, it was a great experience.
Yeah, and another thing, just to Old Glory's credit that I really appreciated, and honestly I am glad, it was just the tour guide, what was her name again? Shy, and the two of us, was just the explanation on when they use that corn, they get it from local farmers, then they use it for the whiskey, and then they go ahead and take that old corn and they use it to feed the animals during the winter.
That's right. It's good.
So aside from that, what do you have for me today? I know, what are we drinking?
Well, starting out, with this being, our first time sitting down and talking as formal on the podcast, I wanted to just start out simple and just do a traditional Buffalo Trace. I think we're both fans of Buffalo Trace Distillery. they have the Wellers and the Blantons and the all of the bourbon that we enjoy. But I want to start out very simple, very direct. Just the Buffalo Trace. It is 90 proof, and it's a Kentucky straight bourbon. It is wonderful. So that's what we're starting out with today.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, Buffalo Trace, honestly, if you're just getting into whiskey, I mean, depending on where you are, and, the prices on whiskey vary state by state, but I think, Buffalo Trace, for the price and the product, I think is honestly the best bottle you can buy. I mean, it's just, it's such an easy drink for the beginner, and, I mean, it always goes down smooth, always an easy sipper, you just don't struggle with it at all.
No, and like you said, price point, you can spend $100 on a bottle of, any number of the other things I mentioned, but this one, I think it was $27.99. Whenever I got it. No, it's not always on the shelf, right? I mean, it's right. Not everybody has it all the time, at least here in Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, that's a common thing here since I moved here. That the allocation's not the greatest. But I mean, especially not having Buffalo Trace, because I felt like at least where I'm from in California, I could find it anywhere. I mean, literally any store. But it's funny, only being one state away, it's so hard to find these products.
Right. And when I was in California, a couple weeks ago, and was looking at different bourbons, it's crazy to see how we have the price points aren't really any different, right?
Yeah.
I'll use Buffalo Trace as an example. It was right around that $30 mark, that $27, $28, $29. That's how much I paid for it here. And that's how much we paid for it there. And it's crazy because it's got to be shipped,
right,
2,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Versus we're 2 hours away from the distillery, and we pay the same. So you would think that depending on where you're at, prices would vary a little bit more than they actually do. But
well, kind of going on that too, like you said, it's 2,000 miles away. We're one state over in Middle Tennessee. I mean, we're 30 minutes from the border. And I got this bottle here that I brought over because you sent me that Instagram reel where a guy said a bottle he wouldn't buy again is Benchmark Foolproof. I think that's a mistake. I think it's also I think it's great for the price, and also a Buffalo Trace product. Funny enough, only like $25. How much did you pay for it?
It was $25.99.
$25.99. He smuggled it for me from California, and they don't sell Benchmark Top Floor, Foolproof, any of that series here in Tennessee yet, which I just think is so interesting. But I can get it in California.
Well, and another thing too, another Buffalo Trace product is the Eagle Rare.
Yeah.
That one I paid $39.99, and here, if you can find it, you're paying $89.99, $100. So
well, yeah, and it's like that little single barrel I got, that little pint sized. It's a novelty size. The barrel, honestly,
was not a good pick.
Yeah, it wasn't a good pick. I mean, it wasn't my favorite. It was a little on the spicier side for Buffalo Trace, but
Now, to his defense, though, the gentleman who did the barrel picks, we've grown to know that it appears as though he likes the spicier bourbons, because we've had some of his other barrel picks, and that's kind of the reoccurring theme, I think, with his selections.
Yeah, that's definitely the trend. But honestly, I think the Benchmark Foolproof, when I first had it, when I had my whiskey group out in California, I brought, not the Foolproof, but I brought the bottle of Top Floor. I didn't even tell anybody how much it cost. I just let everybody drink, because sort of the rule of thumb at the party was you just bring your own bottle, we pass it around, we all try it. That was the bottle I bought, and that was right when it hit the market in California, and everybody was super impressed. It's the same mash bill as Blanton's, I believe, so it's kind of got that similar flavor on the Top Floor, and everybody was sort of impressed, and then I was like, oh yeah, it's like a $17 bottle.
Well, it wasn't crazy readily available in California, at least where I was, and the stores that I went to. I just found the Foolproof. That's what you have, right? Is that Top Shelf? No, Foolproof.
Yeah.
And so when I got that was really the only one they had, other than the cheap bottle, the $12, $13 bottle of Benchmark. But of this line, whatever the line is of them.
The Benchmark 8-year, I believe it's the 8-year you're going to find pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
not the best, in my opinion. I mean, that's why I was so impressed with these ones. For the price and what they are, you have the traditional benchmark 8-year you see on the shelf. You're probably not going to be a fan, but they really upped their game with these ones, with the orange label, the white label, top floor. If you can find it in your area, in your state, depending on where it is, I mean, pretty much anybody can afford to get it, especially if you're just starting out. Or if you just want something that's a daily sipper, I mean, I don't think you can really go wrong with it.
The thing is, too, with it, it does appear... Now, you can't judge a book by its cover, right? Because we have certain bottles over here that look... That are just a basic bottle, but have a fantastic product, versus you can get very fancy bottles that have a very low quality product, right?
Right.
Well, the Benchmark has a bottle that is the most basic. It reminds me of a Jim Beam bottle, right? Just a square, just basically it's got the screw cap. It doesn't have like the corks or anything, and it's just very basic but very delicious. So let's try it.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny you say that because it is on the shelf with Evan Williams, with Jim Beam. It's on the same shelf. And I mean...
that bottom shelf?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the gentleman that I ended up buying that bottle from, he didn't understand what I was asking for whenever I asked for the top shelf, the Benchmark top shelf. So I asked him, like, do you have any others like the... And I was naming them off, and I said, like the top shelf. He goes, well, we just have new shelves over there. They're just down there right now, but we're going to reorganize, and they're going to be on the higher shelf. So I'm like, not what I'm asking at all. But no, it was good.
No, I mean, I've always liked it, and since I moved here, I've only lived here since March or so. I'm still a new person in the area, transplant. And I was looking for it. And I mean, if you've ever moved to Tennessee or visited, you're going to find out quickly, like, no alcohol in the grocery stores. You can't. Can you buy on Sunday or certain parts on Sunday, or is there a time constraint here?
That's a good question. I don't know. There used to be, but I think they've opened that up a little bit.
I know
more.
You can't buy on Easter and you can't buy on Christmas.
Yeah,
is what the law is. But as for allocation, like trying to find the bottles. Like, I could find Pappy Van Winkle, I could find Weller, pretty much anywhere. Even just your small hole-in-the-wall liquor stores. Obviously, you're gonna pay the price for finding it. They're gonna heavily mark it up. But like he was saying, these bottles like this that, I've had Pappy 12-year, very expensive bottle. I wasn't very impressed with it, to be honest. And now we're sort of seeing this thing in the bourbon and whiskey culture where... Yes, you have those purists that are chasing, those bottles, but we just had that Widow Jane, aged 10 years, sitting over there. How much was that one?
$75.
$75, and I mean, honestly, that's a great bottle. I mean,
yeah, it's very. So when I heard somebody else describe it, they described it as peppery, and so I was really hesitant because I like the more mellow, wheated bourbons. Or I'm a fan of those. And so when he described it as peppery, I was a little, I'm not sure about this. But when we tried it, you could definitely taste the peppery side of it, but it wasn't a harsh, spicy, like rough taste. Like, it was still very good.
Right.
So.
I mean, I really enjoyed that one. And I think as time goes on, when you're seeing brands like Old Forester with their... their 1910, their 1920, that whole Whiskey Row series, super impressive. You can find it pretty much anywhere. That's something we're definitely going to see, I think, sort of happen. And with Buffalo Trace opening their, for those of you that don't know, they opened up a second still, I believe, last year. It was really cool because they literally copied and pasted the original Buffalo Trace still they have. So, I mean, when I went to this Weller dinner, the lady was talking about how they literally copied every single dent in it, every scratch, anything that was particular about that still to replicate the flavors coming out so that they could create and match the demand that's at hand. So prices are definitely going to go down, but it's going to be interesting what happens in the market.
Still got a few more years, though.
Yeah, maybe probably 4 or 5 more years.
But... we'll see.
But yeah, I mean, let's see. So next up on the list for distilleries, I mean, we got Casey Jones. What's that other one?
I'm not sure where those.
Right here.
Old Glory, where we went today in Clarksville, Tennessee, has an agreement with two other distilleries, Casey Jones and MB Roland. And both of those are in Kentucky, just across the border. For those of you who don't know, Clarksville is one of the most northern parts of kind of central Tennessee. And so it sits right on the border. So they're all relatively close to each other, but they have an agreement. And so you can kind of go and hit up all three of them. Very similar to like the... what is it, the Bourbon Trail in the middle of Kentucky.
Like a little mini
it's just
trail.
a mini trail of just the three. So, I think next week we're going to hit up Casey Jones and MB Roll and try to hit both of those the same day.
Yeah, I mean, we have that one, and then I think the following week we got Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, it's in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, if you're ever in the Nashville area, though, I mean, definitely try to go to Clarksville, or you could go to Nashville Barrel. There's another one we've ventured at a few times, or Nelson's Greenbrier is another one.
So Nashville Barrel's a unique concept. Why don't you share what? Because they're not a distillery, like.
No, they're blenders.
Yeah, so they pull from all over.
Yeah, and I mean, half the brands we see now aren't actually distilling their own product. They're buying from, manufacturers and just basically choosing barrels and blending to make, their own version of the bourbon, which is kind of more common. I think Nashville Barrel, a brand called Nulu, which is kind of new within the past few years. I think even Blue Run, which Blue Run's a huge one. I think they also do that as well. But it's cool when you go in there because you get the barrel experience. We got to actually pull from barrels, do our own little barrel pick. They have your own bottling and barrel experience as well, if you're ever in town. And honestly, they make other great products other than bourbon as well. I know they have the James, which won, I think, the 2019 Bourbon San Francisco Award as Bourbon of the Year. But, I mean, we had their agave, which they have to call it agave, but really it's tequila, just made here in Tennessee. That was really good. I mean, I thought that was a quality product.
For not being bourbon, yes.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think they even make wines. They make a lot of different stuff now.
Yeah. We'll get more into detail with them one week whenever we talk specifically about them because we have some that we can try.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, but, I mean, Old Glory today, I think that was a really cool experience. We've heard nothing but great things, and they're not that old. I mean, what year did they say they started?
2016.
Oh, I didn't really, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2006, but that's...
2016, 2017.
Yeah.
Because you got to think it was February 19th of 2017 is when that first bourbon was barreled.
Right.
So you're looking at February 19th of 2027 is when they're going to bottle it and sell it as their 10-year.
Right. I mean, that was a really cool experience. We got a lot of good photos and some good content when we were out there. Yeah, I mean, it was really pleasant. I mean, that tour was pretty quick, too. I mean, how long would you say that was? Like 30 minutes?
Oh, tops, yeah. Because we were back in the gift shop doing our tasting by 11:30, and we started at 11. So
yeah, I mean, it's not as big as obviously Jack Daniel's or Buffalo Trace or anything like that, but it was still really cool to see that they actually do distill. They still store it in their own rick house. It's just it's cool to see that process still being done today.
All right, so let me ask you this: top 5 bottles that you have purchased recently. Like, what do you think are your most recent top 5 picks?
Top 5 picks right now, I think on both of our lists, one of them is going to be that maple from Nashville Barrel, the maple cask.
Yeah.
Oh, man. If you guys ever have the chance, I know you can buy it online. I don't know if they ship out of state, but...
They do ship out of state because they have... A shout out to Nashville Barrel. They have a membership that you can do to where... you get a bottle a month and everything, and you don't have to live in the area because they will ship it to you. So we do know that they do ship. I just don't know if has to be on that membership or if you can just buy a specific bottle.
Well, so for the membership, I know it's got to be whatever bottle they're doing that month.
Of course, yeah, but because they ship that, I'm curious if they ship anything that they sell.
Right.
Was my
yeah.
question.
I mean, but that bottle, seriously, like, I could be sitting on the couch late at night and I kind of hear it calling me, just because it's got that dessert flavor in it from the maple. I mean, I know both of us have bought bottles, and pretty often we'll, kind of get that feeling of, okay, we want this bottle. Just it gets that sweetness, almost dessert-like taste, but it's just different than any other bottle I think we have.
Well, it is,
in our arsenal.
yeah, because we have, stuff that's heavy on wheat or heavy on rye. We have stuff that, and you get these different flavors, these different notes, but this one has because it's in that maple cask, it's very sweet, very good. So it's very different, but it's delicious.
And it's not gimmicky. I think a lot of times you get companies that kind of get way too into the flavor,
right?
Way too into the syrups,
Oh yeah, I'm not a fan of flavored liquor. So
yes, that one's definitely the top. The other one, which I haven't opened yet, but I know I'm gonna love, is that Stag that from California you found. I'm so excited. I'm going on a hunt pretty soon that I'm saving that for to pop open, but I'm very excited to open that. As well as honestly just that Benchmark. I mean, I know it's not very expensive, but at night recently, that's what I've been drinking and going toward.
Well, of the three that you've just mentioned, it makes me happy because I got you two of them.
Yeah, I know. And I also did have that that really complex Woodford Reserve. What was it? The Sonoma Triple Finish?
Yep, Sonoma Triple Finish number 19.
That was so good. I mean, in complex, I mean, like you said, it's like dark chocolate, walnut, plum. And honestly, we're not those kind of guys that just give you, notes or palate stuff. We're just going to tell you whether it's good or not. And that one, you drink it and it's not like any other thing you've really had.
Sure.
I mean, it's just going to give you a different feeling, but it does sort of make you focus on those palate notes that, sometimes more than others you can get out of different bourbons. I don't know, I'm trying to think of another one.
Yeah, one more. I'm going to come up with one more.
Okay, Wild Turkey 101. I did, because of Thanksgiving, I did pull out all the wild turkeys. If you follow us on Instagram, I did do a post of it, and I took a sip of each of them that day. And the past few days I've been doing Wild Turkey 101 as well. It's just for $20. I mean, it's a great bourbon. Honestly, I've heard a lot of people say it's amazing in cocktails as well. It's not too overpowering, but I don't know. For me right now, that's my top 5. What about you?
Well, so you said Benchmark Foolproof, the Stag, Woodford Reserve Sonoma Triple Finish number 19, the Wild Turkey 101, and the Nashville Barrel, the Maple. So I would say, like we talked about earlier, I am, just like you are, very much a Buffalo Trace guy. So probably my Eagle Rare, my Blanton's, then the Russell Reserve 10-year. A lot of people talk smack on it, but I enjoy it. And then the Widow Jane, we mentioned that a little bit earlier. It comes out of New York, and that one is another more complex taste, and I really enjoyed that. And I think that's is that 4? And then I'll say the Old Forester 1870.
Yeah.
Is one of my most recent 5 that I've purchased. That it has probably the most mellow taste of the Whiskey Row series from Old Forester, and I really enjoy that. It's right there at the 100. No, it's a 90.
Yeah, I was gonna say most.
Call.
And the Widow Jane's only at 91 proof. The Benchmark, I think, is. Well, Benchmark's actually 125 proof.
Wow.
But,
yeah, well, we sit around 90 to 100 is kind of where our...
Yeah, we're definitely more the long-aged, less spicy stuff, more fruity candy. But, yeah, I mean, right now those are the bottles we're drinking. Ones we're looking for, I mean, I haven't had, the McKenna 10-year.
I want the McKenna 10-year. The Michener, I'm not saying that right. Minters, yep. How do you say it? Michters, that's right. Michters.
Michters.
They're 10-year, and I want to see, their their distillery is only about 40 minutes away from here, so
Yeah.
may have to hit that up at some point. But yeah, those couple of 10-year bottles I'd be interested in.
I think bottles I really want to buy too. I don't know the Blantons. And like we were talking about it earlier, I'm so, I've been around where I could have gotten them for like $59, $60. Here, you're gonna pay a lot for a bottle of Blantons, which is crazy. But it's one I just have not bought, which is funny. I've always been a Weller guy, or just regular Buffalo Trace, Wild Turkey. That's sort of been the line I've followed. But Blanton's is one of the OG originals that even in movies you'd see it and you'd sort of say, okay, they're trying to show you that they have an expensive bottle of bourbon.
Sure.
But
Yep.
I mean, I know you're trying to get the whole set right now.
I do. Yeah. Well, I just got the one, so I got the letter N.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who don't know, Blanton's, the tops to the bottles, the corks, they have a little horse on them, and they have a letter. It's random. It's not anything particular, but they have the letters that spell out the word Blanton's, and I want to get all of those. But unless I find it for less expensive, it's going to be a long time before I get all of this. So I'm going to have to go elsewhere. But no, N is the only letter I have right now, so I'm going to have to work on getting the rest of those.
I know. I'm just trying to find a decently priced bottle of Weller 12. I know that's a very controversial bottle as well. I know people either love it or they hate it. But honestly, that's honestly top of the charts for me. But around here, that's $250, something like that is usually what the going price is. We're not close to things like Total Wine. I think the closest one is Brentwood.
Correct.
So we can't get that. Those really good deals that are found. I know the Stag, was a lot more than the retail price. When they dropped it, it was only $59 at Total Wine.
Wow.
We did not pay $59.
Do you want to share?
Oh yeah, it was what was it, 200?
200, yeah.
200
but only because I was getting ready to walk out. So.
Yeah. And here, I saw a bottle here in Tennessee, because you got that in California. It was like $255, $260 is what I was saying it for.
Yeah, so the guy wanted $269. So he wanted $270 for the bottle, and I told him no. And I just thanked him, and I was getting ready to walk out, and he asked me how much I would pay, and I said no more than $2, and he said, okay, I'll sell it to you. So I'm like, all right. So if you're ever in a situation, and who knows? Doesn't hurt to ask.
Which still, I mean, you go online, you Google, how much a bottle of Stag is, which I think you can do right now. We've seen him go for $550. It's crazy what the markup is.
Right. Well, let's find out. Let's see. Google, how much is a bottle of Stag? Retail $70 to $80. So they're talking the MSRP, right?
Yeah,
so they're talking the manufacturer's, retail price that they're saying it should go for. But I mean, here's one for $330. Here's one for, that's a lot more. But you're in the hundreds. Here's one for $309. So yeah, I mean, it's not unrealistic to get those prices, and I think 200 wasn't a terrible deal, especially when you can't find it,
And we don't exactly post how much we pay on like our Facebook chats where you get eaten alive by some of these guys. I see these guys posting, whatever bottle they bought that day, and it's immediately like, oh, I bet you overpaid for it. Oh, I would never pay that much for that bottle. And
hey, if it's something you enjoy drinking,
yeah,
I very much overpaid for my bottle of Blanton's, but I really wanted it, and it tasted really good, and so I can't say that I'd do it again, but I don't know that I'd pay that much, but yeah, it was worth it to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll keep you guys posted on what we're going to be doing this next week, what bottles we get, and kind of go from there. Like I said, we're doing Buffalo Trace in 2 weeks. I think, are we going to hit Casey Jones next week?
Yeah, next week, Casey Jones and MB
Roland.
Yep.
Distillery. So do that. It's kind of cool when you finish that little trail. They give you a cool stave that you can put your flight glasses in, or sorry, shot glasses for this one. And then we're going to be moving on up through East Kentucky.
So just to answer, well, as we wrap up here, the just a quick search of cheapest states to buy bourbon in, Mississippi came up. The average price. Now you got to keep in mind, there's a lot that goes into this. They're not talking just, allocated, and there's just in general. We can dive in maybe in a future episode to break it down a little bit more. But just in general, the most basic Mississippi average bottle of bourbon is $24.35.
Oh.
For a sold bourbon. And then South Carolina is at $24.77. Alabama, Arizona, Colorado, Texas. So I mean, it goes up a few cents every each of those states that I talked about. So
yeah.
Maybe we drive into Mississippi or Alabama. Those are also bordering states. Maybe we go and see what we can find there. But yeah, we'll have to do a breakdown and see kind of what where we can find the best deals.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this week. We're gonna reach back out next week for joining us.
All right, y'all take care.